Alright, yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we have another pro wrestling video. You guys seem to like the last one, or at least a lot of y'all watched it. So yeah, we're gonna be watching another one. This one's gonna be a little bit more sad than the last one was. This one is 10 forgotten pro wrestling tragedies. I know about a couple. Obviously, the Owen Hart tragedy, that was a big one. I also remember hearing a story about Rey Mysterio killing somebody at one point by accident, which is not great. So I probably shouldn't have said that in the beginning of this video. But this is by Cultaholic Wrestling. Go check them out. Link is down in the description down below. Sorry if I'm stumbling over my words. Sorry if I'm seem like I'm out of it. It's 2 a.m. when I'm recording this video. So I think it's 2 a.m. Actually, it's almost 3. It's 2:48 a.m. So I'm going to try to get this video done for you guys, get this up for you guys today, I guess, technically, on this Tuesday afternoon that y'all are watching this video. I want to thank y'all so much for the support on the channel recently. You guys have been killing it. But with that being said, man, we're going to get right into this video. The 10 forgotten pro wrestling tragedies. Let's check this out.
Wrestling and tragedy are no strangers to one another. Some of the industry's biggest stars have met unfortunate ends, often at premature ages, asking questions about the lifestyles of our favorite sports entertainers. Some tragedies, on the other hand, slip from memory, whether because they happened long ago, befell somebody not considered a top star, or because in some...
I can imagine all these are going to be from like this golden age era. I believe this was the golden age era. I think a lot of them are going to be from this era.
In some cases, the circumstances surrounding their demise remain murky.
Because nowadays,
now, before we begin, I would just like to issue a word of warning that the following video deals with themes that some viewers may find distressing, and
This is your warning. If you guys can't handle that, if you guys whatever, this is your warning to leave now before this video continues. This is going to be a heavy video. As the title suggests, it's going to be a heavy video, so just a fair warning to you guys before we start this. Anyway, did you leave? You still here? Whoever's still here, subscribe, like the video. Anyway,
I advise anybody who is likely to be negatively affected by this to view with caution. With that said, I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 forgotten pro wrestling
I've never
tragedies.
watched this channel before, so it's going to be interesting.
Number 10, the death of Adrian Adonis.
Okay.
WrestleMania 3 remains one of the most iconic shows WWE has ever produced.
That was before. Oh, they already put it up there. Hulk Hogan, Andre.
Typically going to Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant for drawing such a giant crowd, as well as Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage for stealing the show with their instant classic Intercontinental title bouts. Praise should also be given to adorable Adrian Adonis, who put in one hell of a performance in his hair versus hair showdown with former tag partner Rowdy Roddy Piper. Fired by the company a couple of months after Mania 3, Adonis would lose his life just over a year later when he was traveling to a show in Canada with 3 other wrestlers. The wrestler who was driving, William Arco, aka Mike Kelly, supposedly swerved to avoid hitting a moose while blinded by the sun. Their van ended up falling into a creek where Adonis suffered severe head injuries that he ended up succumbing to just a few hours later. The 2 other wrestlers also died in the accident, with Arco the sole survivor. Adonis was in the process of losing weight with a focus on getting rehired by WWE and left behind a wife and 2 young daughters. He was just 34 years old. Number 9, the death of Joey Morella. Exactly 6 years after the death of Adonis, another key player in WrestleMania 3 passed away. Joey Morella didn't wrestle on the card, but he was the man in the middle for the main event. Not only that, but he was officiating it at the request of Andre the Giant himself. Joey Morella was the son of Robert Morella, aka Gorilla Monsoon, and worked his way up the ranks to become one of Vince McMahon's most trusted referees. Often assigned major main event matches, Morella was driving back from a television taping in Ocean City, Maryland on July 4th, 1994, where incidentally he had reffed that night's main event, Bret Hart vs. Owen Hart. Traveling with Bruno Lauer, aka Harvey Whippleman, Morella fell asleep at the wheel at around 3 a.m. and crashed the vehicle into a guardrail at the southern end of the Jersey Turnpike. Lauer was wearing his seatbelt and...
Hey man, listen bro, get sleep before you drive. Okay, I don't care where you gotta be at. I don't care if you gotta park on the side of the highway. Actually, probably don't do that. It's probably not a good idea. Get sleep, bro. If you're tired, find somewhere to pull over, get some sleep, dude, because falling asleep behind the wheel, man.
Escaped with minor injuries,
rough,
but Morella wasn't buckled up and was thrown from the car and killed instantly. He was 31 years old.
31,
in a spooky bit of foreshadowing, Morella had been involved in another Independence Day auto accident years earlier, escaping with just an injured spleen on that occasion. Number 8, the death of Crash Holly. It feels strange to label the death of such a notable performer as forgotten, but the tragic passing of Mike Crash Holly Lockwood didn't get nearly enough attention at the time.
Not notable, but I didn't know it was like a thing that like was crazy. I know he passed away, but I don't remember. I don't know how. So I guess it is forgotten because I don't know how.
20 years later is rarely, if ever, brought up. A memorable part of WWE's Attitude Era, the former tag team champion was famed for his antics in the company's hardcore division, in particular his trials and tribulations while defending the strap under the self-imposed 24/7 conditions.
Real quick, I know this is like a serious video, but what the fuck is bro wearing? What is bro wearing over here? I'm not pinning a dude that's wearing this. I'm just gonna be real with you. Or a girl? I can't tell. If you know, comment down below.
Once that had run its course, Crash settled into a role as more of an enhancement talent and a familiar face to work live events, with his career failing to reach the same lofty heights until he was released in June of 2003. Holly was supposedly vocal about his lack of storylines and unhappy with the direction of his career when he was let go. He landed in TNA as Mad Mikey and had a Japanese tour.
I didn't even know he was in TNA.
But his mind was occupied by the bitter divorce he was going through at the time.
Oh no.
Lockwood was tragically found dead in the apartment of Stephen Richards on November 6th, 2003. His death was ruled a suicide. Truly a bitterly sad end for somebody who brought...
Wait, he was in Stevie Richards' home? Damn. I know Stevie Richards does his podcast. I wonder if he's talked about this on the podcast. We're going to hear what happened to him, but I wonder if he's talked about this, because that's crazy. It was in his house. Dude, imagine you have your boy over at your crib, and then they find him dead. Yo, that's fucking wild. That's wild.
So much joy. Number 7, the death of Jay Youngblood.
They didn't say what happened. It was, I guess it was rolled a suicide.
Whose brothers Chris and Mark were also wrestlers. The business came naturally to the young, athletic, and likable Jay Youngblood. With those qualities, it was really no surprise that he was partnered up with Ricky Steamboat, the two forming a tremendous duo that won the Mid-Atlantic Territories World Tag Team titles on 5 occasions. Jay eventually left Mid-Atlantic and settled in Florida, while also traveling the world to other far-flung destinations. It was during a tour of the South Pacific that the 10-year veteran began complaining of abdominal pain so bad he went to get himself checked at the hospital. Diagnosed with hemorrhagic pancreatitis, he then developed abdominal sepsis and kidney failure before suffering a series of heart attacks. Placed in a medically induced coma, Youngblood eventually succumbed to his ailments at the hospital in Parkville, Australia on September 2nd, 1985. He was only 30 years old, leaving behind a wife, son, and...
What is with wrestling? Like, I know, like, people like to blame it on the steroids that they were using back in the day because it was obviously encouraged. But, like, damn, wrestlers die so young. But then you have guys that were in that era, like Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, that have lived, like, full lives. Like, they're in their 70s now and they're still going. It's just crazy to, like... Bro, like, that's so crazy how young these guys are dying. Like, 30, 31. I think the oldest was like 32 so far on the list. Like, that's crazy.
And young daughter.
That's crazy.
People who knew Jay would later say how he may have been in pain for some time prior to his diagnosis and rapid decline, but that he didn't want to disappoint fans by pulling out of bookings. Number 6,
your health is always more important, man.
Remembered as a journeyman preliminary wrestler, Brady Boone nonetheless had a strong in-ring career that saw him work for WWE, WCW, and All Japan Pro Wrestling. A high flyer who utilized moves not regularly seen in the 80s and early 90s, the former gymnast may not have won many matches, but he did inspire future stars, including Rob Van Dam, who cites Boone as one of his primary influences. He was generally regarded as a solid worker and was well liked backstage, but Boone was shorter and...
This guy kind of reminds me of Austin Idol. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Austin Idol, but he's a wrestler that I don't even think he worked in WWE or WWF at the time, but he's like an old wrestler. He's wrestled like Ric Flair, all those guys. and now he trains people actually at a school that's not far away from me, but he trains people there to wrestle, and a lot of wrestlers have taken inspiration from him. So this guy kind of reminds me of a guy like that, where he's like kind of an inspirational type of wrestler.
The man perhaps best known as the Masked Battle Cat retired from the Ring Wars in 1997, after which he secured a gig as a referee with WCW. Following a WCW television taping in Palmetto, Florida on December 15th, 1998, Boone was killed in a car accident. He had fallen asleep at the wheel while driving to pick up a pizza, and his Dodge camper van had fallen off an elevated section of the interstate and landed on the road below. A private individual and committed family man who was said to devote a lot of time to charity, Boone was 40 years old. Number 5, the death of Jerry Blackwell. Despite being 5'9" tall and clocking in at close to 450 pounds at his heaviest, Jerry Blackwell was surprisingly agile and fast on his feet. His size, speed, and unexpected athleticism made the one-time world's strongest man entrant an attraction, particularly in Vern Gagne's AWA promotion during the 1980s, where he became a top babyface following the departure of Hulk Hogan. Regarded as one of, if not the best super heavyweights of the era, Crusher Blackwell pretty much left the business in 1988 and began suffering from a series of health issues related to his ballooning weight. Diabetes, gangrene, and gout led to him being bedridden for much of the year prior to his death. Blackwell was also involved in a series of automobile accidents after retiring from...
If you're a wrestler, don't drive. Have somebody chauffeur you around. Especially if you were in this era, bro, don't drive. Just don't drive. Because in this era, they were doing like multiple days, like four matches a day type of shows.
From the Squared Circle, which some speculated were attempts to end his own life. His
shit,
last crash did ultimately lead to his death. After being involved in a wreck in December of 1994, Blackwell passed away on January 22nd, 1995 due to complications from pneumonia. He was 45 years old. Number 4, the death of Steve Bradley.
In a
discussion about the most talented developmental prospects never to make it to WWE's main roster, Steve Bradley's name stands at the very top. A regular presence on cards in the Northeast Indies during the early to mid-90s, Bradley signed a WWE developmental deal in 1998 and was instrumental in the early tutelage of Kurt Angle. The Olympic gold medalist credits the Boston native for teaching him a lot and getting him ready for his own debut on the main stage. Unfortunately for Bradley, he himself was never called up, and though he was very talented, received his release in 2002. There were still opportunities for him in the business, but Bradley's body was beginning to break down, and he developed a drug problem. When his promoting and training school business started to fail, Bradley's addictions worsened, and he was arrested for possession of heroin on October 25th, 2008.
His was painkillers.
Less than 2 months later, on December 4th, Bradley was found dead in his parents' car, which he had stolen days earlier in a parking lot across the street from where his old training school had been. Autopsy results were inconclusive, and an element of mystery remains over his tragic death at the age of just 32. Number 3, the death of Larry Sweeney. One of the great what-could-have-beens in wrestling history, Larry Sweeney had all the tools and talent to become one of the greatest managers in the industry. A serious heat magnet with a character and style all his own, Sweet and Sour spoke with machine gun-like speed and had a confidence and charisma not often found on the independent scene. After years working for various indies such as Chikara, Sweeney came to prominence as a member of the Ring of Honor roster in the late 2000s. Behind the bravado, however, Larry was battling depression as well as bipolar disorder.
He would have been there around the same time as Seth Rollins. I'm pretty. Oh no, Seth Rollins might have been gone by then.
He described as a mental breakdown, which cost him his job with ROH and caused him to essentially go off the grid, breaking contact with his closest friends. Things got worse in 2011 when he was charged with DUI after falling asleep in his car while drinking. This, coupled with financial issues, is what many believe led to him taking his own life at age 30 by hanging himself from the turnbuckle of the ring at a wrestling school in Lake Charles, Louisiana on April 11th.
From the turnbuckle? From the turnbuckle. Gee, man.
2011. Jesus. Number 2, the death of Russ Haas. Had fate not intervened, Charlie Haas would have made his main roster WWE debut alongside his younger brother Russ, not Shelton Benjamin. WWE officials were high on the Haas brothers, believing that the amateur standouts from Oklahoma could potentially be a modern-day version of Jack and Jerry Briscoe. Their trajectory was halted when Russ suffered a heart attack on September 24, 2001, while driving back from a television taping where he had just wrestled a young John the Prototype Cena just hours prior. Doctors discovered a blocked artery as well as potassium levels that were way off, which were blamed on the Seton Hall University graduate's erratic eating habits. Russ was keen to recover and get back into the ring and showed up at a Heartland Wrestling Association house show on December 14th to check in with the rest of the crew and give them an update. The next morning, however, his wife discovered him dead on their couch, having suffered another massive heart attack. He was 27 years old. Charlie, who arrived at his brother's house to pick him up for the HWA Christmas party when he saw the ambulance, dedicated his career to Russ, writing his name on his wrist tape for every one of his matches. Number 1, the death of Brian Hildebrand. A lifelong fan of the
Speaking of, and I'm going to go back so we can listen to that full thing, but his death reminds me of rest in peace, recent rest in peace, or I guess a year ago, but Bray Wyatt. It's a very similar story. Bray Wyatt went to bed, take a nap. He was going to get up, I guess work out or do whatever he was doing. Had a heart attack, passed away in his sleep, man. It's so scary, man. It's so scary. Rest in peace.
Number 1, the
Rest
death
in peace to
of
everybody
Brian
on this list,
Hildebrand.
man. Holy.
A lifelong fan of the wrestling business who wanted nothing more than to be a professional wrestler, Brian Hildebrand was under no illusions when it came to his chances of getting to live his dream. At just 5'6" tall and weighing about 150 pounds, there was no way he was going to get a fair shot in the 80s and early 90s, though he did wrestle occasionally on the indies before settling on becoming a manager and eventually a referee. Well liked and respected as one of the industry's top officials, Hildebrand, as Mark Curtis, landed a full-time gig with WCW in 1996. Sadly, the following year, he was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Like a true fighter, he beat the odds and it went into remission, allowing him to go back to work. Tragically, though, the cancer returned and was deemed inoperable. The wrestling world gathered to support him, with talent from WCW, WWE, and ECW coming together for a benefit show. Hildebrand outlived his prognosis, but on September 8, 1999, succumbed to the inevitable. He was 37 years old. In an industry full of supposed tough guys, it was often said that none were more courageous or nicer than Brian Hildebrand.
Damn. Hey, man. This was sad. This is a sad Tuesday for sure. Oh my God, dude. That's crazy. Like, they were all young too. Like, if they were older, I'd be like, okay, but it'd still be sad. But the fact that they were so young and a lot of them were in the prime of their life, about to make their WWE debuts or whatever, it's so, oh man, that sucks, dude. That fucking sucks. Holy shit. We started this Tuesday off great, didn't we, guys? Didn't we? But anyway, man, thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoy, make sure you guys drop a like down below. Sub to the channel. Let me know in the comment section down below what you want me to see me react to next. The original link to this video is down in the description. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace off, guys.